Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan Rice. On this episode, we are going to get the Torqeedo 1103 installed on our Nucanoe Unlimited. So before we get into the install, I want to go over a few little things first so you understand what I'm doing here. If you've seen the previous videos, I just got this kayak. I had the anchor wizard mounted on this track coming back here to the rear, and obviously now with the motor going to be back there, it's going to be in, the anchor is going to be in my way. Now I do have an idea what I'm actually going to do with the anchor. I was thinking about going off the front of the kayak, but I still like my anchor in the back. I came up with an idea, maybe somebody else has, but I'm going to actually get a plate mounted to the track, and it's almost going to look like a piece of pizza pie, and it's going to keep it off to the side here so the anchor comes straight off the back of the kayak. The anchor itself will clear the motor and not hit it when it comes up and down. That's the start. Second thing is I'm utilizing the Quick Connect EPS system for the install for this Torqeedo 1103 with the foot control steering. And the reason why I went the route with the EPS system from Nucanoe with their parts is the main reason for getting this kayak is because I wanted this kayak for a tandem setup, maybe once or twice a month to take my son out. That was the main reason for getting this kayak. So I can't leave this seat here set up all the time and permanently set everything up to be a solo kayak because I got to take my son out. So instead of doing like foot pegs down here with both of my feet steering the kayak, I had to go with the EPS system from Nucanoe because it's on one side. And the biggest thing with that is these steering cables that control the motor in the back. This is your standard one, so it's going to come up to about here. But they also sell a shorter cable for a tandem setup. So they already have this all thought out. And with all their gear track on their kayak, it's simply just adding a seat, shifting this seat back, leaving the motor mount. The motor mount's going to stay on this kayak all the time. And it's just a shorter 5-foot cable. And I just, loosen the thumb screws and move the foot control back a little bit when I have it set up for a tandem setup. So that's the main reason why I went the EPS system from Nucanoe themselves instead of doing the double foot control steering and running, lines through the hull to the back here to control the motor with the standard mounting plate from Torqeedo. Had to think about that one for a minute. I'm like, what motor do I have again? So that's the reason why I went with the Nucanoe mount, is really because I need to be able to shift this around all the time between tandem and solo. And with this setup, it should be a pretty cut and dry, easy install. I don't have to drill any holes in the in the hull itself, which to me is not really a big deal because I'm gonna be drilling holes anyway for the for my navigational lights. But it's just less moving parts. That's another reason why I'm using this as my primary kayak now instead of my Hobie, is because it has a lot less moving parts. The Hobie has all the lines inside the hull for the steering. It has the fins that you have to make sure that you always got to take care of, and it's another piece you got to add to the kayak. All I'm going to do with this setup is this motor mount's going to be mounted back here all the time. It's literally just a pin. Stick it in, put the motor on, hook it up to my battery. Obviously I got to put my battery here, and then my throttle itself, which will be on a quick disconnect from Yak Attack, and that actually comes with this set. I actually bought it already, but I didn't know it came with the set. But you get the Yak Attack throttle mount from Nucanoe, and I'm going to give you all the parts numbers in the description. I'm also going to show you the the part numbers too. But it comes with this, which is your quick disconnect, and you can just take this off. You got your throttle, you got your battery, your cable that runs to the battery for the throttle, and then you got your cable that runs back to the motor. So this is going to be able to, quick lock onto this, connect it to my battery, put the pin in the motor, have the motor sitting there, connect that cable to the battery, and that's it. I'm done. And away I go fishing. There's not a lot of parts and pieces to it. The foot control steering is always going to be where it's at all the time. I don't have to take that on and off. The only time I have to take that on and off is when I transfer this to a to a tandem kayak or back to solo, and I'll just leave that cable connected here all the time probably, or at least disconnect it. Once I get it all set up, I'll see how I'm going to do that and use it a few times how I like it and make sure I protect this cable. I don't want to damage the cable, you know, staying on the kayak or something if it's going to damage it, which it shouldn't. But let's get into the install. We're going to do this together. All I've done so far is open these boxes up and laid the pieces out. I haven't even looked at anything yet, so we're going to be doing this together, guys. So this is the kit I got. So their EPS system, this is number 1726, foot steering mount and control kit, number 1726. They have different EPS systems, you know, or quick disconnect or quick connect motor mounts. They have one for the Torqeedo and they have one for the Newport vessels. So if you order this through a dealer or online, you have to specify if it's for the Torqeedo or if it's for the Newport vessel. And it comes with the motor mount, it comes with the throttle thing from Yak Attack, the holder, all the little parts and pieces, the retract cord, whatever of that, must be the steering box and the foot control and the cable. So it comes with everything that you need to put your Torqeedo on the Nucanoe Unlimited, or probably even like the Flint, anyone that has the tracks on it. And this piece is 7256 track mounted retracts. Now, when I showed you before, which you'll see later on here, the Nucanoe actually has a built-in pulley system and a cleat to hold your cable that goes to the motor to, you know, pull it up and trim it up. But I also got this other kit, which includes, it comes with the shorter cable for the tandem setup, which is only like 5 feet instead of 8. And it also comes with a track mounted, which I haven't opened yet, another track mounted pulley system that mounts actually on the track, because when you have another seat up front here, this pulley system on the Nucanoe is going to be underneath the seat. And I'll show you that in a minute. So when you move your seat back, that retract's going to be underneath the seat in front of you. I may be able to leave it that way because I may be okay retracting the motor underneath. If not, they give you this separate track-mounted pulley system, which just goes on with thumb screws, I'm sure, once I open the box here. Like I said, we're going to be doing this together. So you see what I mean? So this is what's on the side of the kayak already screwed into the frame, or the hull of the kayak, is this Nucanoe little pulley wheel and cleat to hold the string when you pull it down inside this to hold it tight to keep your motor. So this is already on the inside of the kayak, but they give you this as the kit with thumb screws, which I'm sure are from Yak Attack too. And you just mount this on the side of, on the track itself inside the kayak here. So it moves back your pulley wheel to sit where you need it to have to do, when you move your seat back as a tandem setup. So they have this all thought out. Like I said, once I'm on the water, tandem wise, I'm probably going to bring this with me the first day, but I may leave it underneath the seat where my son sits, because I should be able to get underneath there and pull it and do it. If it's really hard and awkward, then I can always just throw this on with some thumb screws and just rework the cable through from the motor into this wheel and just move it back that day. But this is going to be a last added option, in my opinion, just because if I don't have to take the string out of the pulley wheel, which is not really a big deal, and use this, I'm not going to. But it's nice that I have that already at home in case I do have an issue. We got our shorter cable as part of that kit, and I'm going to leave all these numbers in the description so you guys have all these part numbers as well. But like I said, once again though, make sure you're ordering the right kit for the Torqeedo or for the Newport vessel. And Nucanoe prefers if you actually order the stuff through a dealer instead of order directly from them. It's just their thing. They like to give, I guess, the recognition to the dealer, I guess showing the dealer, making some sales. I guess they like seeing that. So if you have a Nucanoe dealer by you, close to you, my dealer is about an hour and a half away, but I drive down there. They prefer you to go through a dealer, but if you're really far away from the dealer, then you can't order directly from Nucanoe. You can call them up and talk to somebody, make sure you have the right parts. They get back to you, leave a message if nobody answers. They've gotten back to me 2 or 3 times. Usually Brian from marketing gets back to me, and we talk about, make sure we have the right stuff. So let's get on with this install. It should be pretty quick. So we're gonna get some things opened up here. We got some very vague, not vague, but very few instructions. So that's a good thing. That means it's very easy to put on. I think they actually show you to put on the steering, the foot control steering. This is what it looks like. So it's gonna go up and down, and you just literally mount this on your track, and your cable mounts in here and comes up to this, and it's just, you know, forward and back. It's got nice padding on it, so if you do, you know, fish barefoot, which I do a lot, it's gonna have a soft touch there. And I'm sure this piece of padding on this foot, you know, the foot peg itself, can be changed out if you lose it or break it or starts to deteriorate. But I'm actually want to start here at the back. They give you a plug kit, because I don't know if you can see here. Let's move the camera around and get you focused down here just a bit. You can see right there that there's a hole inside the transom. Now, I don't know what this hole is for. It must be for other motor mounts, etc. But they give you a plug kit that goes inside of this hole. And that's what I guess you're going to mount it to. So to slide that through, and then this goes on. And see, this is where the cable is going to sit. It clears the handle, as you can see. And then you got the screw that goes through the bolt, and it comes with a thumb screw, so you can see all this stuff is easily on and off. So we gotta stick this bolt through the whole transom once I can get it lined up here. Looks like it has to go down just a tad more. Gotta beat it up a little bit. It's good that everything's a tight fit like that. Here, tap it in there a little bit, get it worked through. You know, it's a new kayak, so everything's going to be a little tight. I'm trying to dig out my rubber mallet here. Please hold. So we're going to get this in there. All right, we got it worked through. You know, you're going through plastic, you're going through metal, and everything's brand new there. So we just want to make sure, because once this is on here, this is not coming off for us, at least this part anyway. And this has a thumb screw. And you got a lock washer. Just tighten that down. So you can order these parts individually as well on the sites, you know, on Nucanoe itself. If you are missing anything or break anything down the line, you can order all these parts. All the bags have a number on them. You'll always be able to order these parts later on. It does come with some thread locker, which is good. Obviously, you want to put it on this in the back. This is just a quick connect here on the back. You don't have to tighten any of this stuff down, because it does come with a split washer on here. So you don't have to really tighten this part down itself. It just kind of spins inside the bracket, because it ain't going to come off. The next thing I want to get on here is actually the motor mount, specifically for the Torqeedo from them. So I gotta see what works here, how this whole thing works. But this is the motor mount for the Torqeedo. Looks like it's got a pull pin up top here with just a you know, quick connecting here with a ball on it, which is kind of freaky. I don't know if I like that yet, but I feel like that would come off when I'm out in the water, but maybe not. So the next thing is we gotta slide this bracket over, like where this thing sits. It's what pivots on. It's a snug fit. I'm sure over time this is all gonna loosen up. And it comes with this long pin that you just stick in, not a bolt, which I'm surprised. I could probably get a bolt, but if they're thinking this is gonna hold it no problem and not coming off, I guess with the weight of the motor, I'll be all right. I'm so used to bolting everything down. Just gotta get it lined up, because I think this part of the motor mount, I think this stays on as well, or it just comes off. This whole assembly comes off with this pin. That I'll have to see yet, if I can get the pin to get in there. You know, like I said, it's all brand new. I can see it kind of lined up. There it is. And this will all get broken in over time. Definitely snug though. I know I'm doing it right. It's just that it's just a pin to get through all that plastic. So yeah, maybe it won't come off. Just gonna pull that out of the way. That's how we'll do it, and we'll bang it in. Okay. You know, I want to make sure it's all the way down. But you can see when you pull this string, there's a little spring-loaded ball there that sits there. See how it snaps in? Let me get you redirected here. See how it snaps in that? When you pull that ball, that string, when you're pulling forward, it takes that like little brass ball out of that pocket, and you can see how it goes in. That's what the whole mechanism, how it works when you pull up and retract. It just takes a little bit of pressure off that spring-loaded ball there and pulls out this piece of plastic. So you can see how this thing pivots really easy once it's on there. So I'm looking at these instructions. I'm not really worried about the steering cable as much, but they are kind of a little vague, Nucanoe. I guess they're figuring that if we can be on a kayak and use a motor that we're have enough common sense to figure this stuff out, but I think you could do a little bit better on the instructions. So if you're watching this video, even though it's pretty cut and dry, you got some loose bolts and some screws sticking out here, and there's no reason, I don't think there's anything in this instructions to say why this stuff is loose. Obviously, I know I need to bolt the motor on through here, and this whole thing must open up. That's why it's like that, but I think you could show a little bit more with the instructions. And then I see here how this whole thing comes. So I guess this is supposed to be my quick mounted. I guess that's how I'm taking the motor on and off with just that pin, because that comes in and out pretty easy. So I guess this will be my disconnect for this. See, that's what I'm saying. So you have a bolt pattern here, but you gave me this pin. You gave me this quick pin here, but I had to bang it in and it's tight, which is fine. But you have, I can see you have a little cutout here for a longer bolt. I think this piece here, I think you should send a bolt or have a bolt. Maybe it's missing and I'm not seeing it over there yet to go through this. No, you just have the retract cord. So I think this should be a bolt, not a pin, because you already have the cutout for the bolt head to be tight. Obviously, you wouldn't snug it down too tight, so it's not too hard to turn this, but I think you should leave this as a bolt with a nylon nut. This way it never comes off. You know, I'm not worried about this coming out since I banged it in, but as it gets looser over time, I don't know. You know, I may replace this with a bolt myself than over having this pull pin here, because I just, even though I banged it in, I just feel like over time, as that gets loosened up, that I'm not going to feel comfortable with that on the water. So let me see what the deal is with this plate here. While it's all loose in the nuts, I guess this is how I mount the motor, because you really don't show mounting the motor on this at all. You just show the install of the stuff on the kayak itself, that's almost self-explanatory anyway. Now I do see in the instructions here, you do have a hex bolt, I guess probably for the Newport vessel going through here. Maybe you guys had some problems over time and you realize this is better, but you know, with a bolt with a nylon nut on here, I think it's just something that you just want to check all the time. I guess as long as this pin's all the way down, you know, maybe putting a safety hole through this shaft of this pin here and putting a loop through it would actually help, just like you did up top here with the pole thing. Maybe I'll drill a hole in this just to put a safety cotter pin down there, just so I know this won't come out, you know, because that would really be bad if that came off on the water. But maybe you guys change this for a reason down the line. But yeah, we're gonna get on to mounting the motor on this next. I would imagine this is why all this stuff is loose. I guess to separate this plate to get the motor on here. So I don't know if you guys know, on the Torqeedo, this part right here, whatever the name of this is called, you can cut this down with a nice clean cut on the bandsaw before you tighten this down. You can run shallower. If you need to bring up your motor higher on your mount, you can just cut this down. You know, this prevents you from, you know, going all the way up in your mount. So if my mount's here, obviously I can't go any higher than where this is coming up. But I'm actually looking at this and my water line's about probably right here. So I think this is good. It's going to be my first test out there. This, you know, the Torqeedo doesn't have to be really far into the water. Obviously still want it underneath the water line, but I think I'm going to bring this all the way up to this and do a water test. And if I have to, then I'll cut this down and bring it up higher if needed to run a little bit more shallower. But you know, I run in lakes and everything and saltwater. I'm not really much onto rivers or creeks. So I think if this is down a little lower, it's fine. But I'm definitely gonna bring it all the way up as high as I can, because that water line of this kayak's probably about right here. So I'll put it about a foot underneath the water or so, maybe a little less. And I think that'll be okay. Sorry, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, it's hot out. But the reason why I'm doing this video is because there's not many videos of this out there. You know, Nucanoe does a few, but they just kind of breeze through it on their thing. And, you know, the instructions get you through it. A lot of the stuff you gotta kind of figure out. They don't tell you about actually like securing the motor, loosening the nuts here. I guess this is all what I gotta do. I do have some screws that are not fully tightened here, if you can see. I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe it's another, you know, I got to tighten it up to compress on this to hold this motor on here. And if you've never been to my channel before, never seen any of my videos, I do jump around a lot. I will talk about other things while I'm doing other things because I see it, it makes me think about it. But to me, the more information I can get out about anything or my particular setup helps. You know, most people on YouTube, there's about 3% of you that actually watch the complete video from the front, you know, from the beginning to the end anyway. So that's why I repeat myself a lot too, is because you may just fast forward, trying to jump in the middle. At least if you didn't hear me say it here, you'll hear me say it here. So obviously with this motor mount, I'm not using half the parts that came with the Torqeedo. All I'm using is the motor, the battery, the throttle, and maybe a few other parts in that bag. It's good that I have those parts because if I ever change kayaks, I actually have to go to the Torqeedo motor mount itself. You know, I'll always have it with me and all the parts needed if I ever do change kayaks, but I don't think I will. But you never know. I mean, things always change down the line. But I looked last night, just for this bracket alone is $300, so I'm keeping it. So I read the instructions. All I think I have to do is just tighten this clamp down to hold this piece down. I don't think you use the paste on this. They want the paste for the, you know, the triangle at the top. If you've ever seen a Torqeedo that does this steering, but this is going to be doing the steering for me. So I don't think I have to put the paste on this to hold this in place. The paste is just to help with friction so that steering triangle, which is in the bag over there, this holds friction to the aluminum tube so it doesn't get loose over time. But I think this here, we just snug this down. So I think I got everything loose enough to get this slid into here. I hope. We're working in there. So that's why they leave these screws loose. Trying to do this one-handed. See if I can get some screws in there to snug it up a bit, just to temporarily hold it on us. Obviously, when you snug everything up finally, you're going to want to make sure that everything is, you know, straight with the mount from Nucanoe. But I just want to get this started just so I can let go of the motor. You know, the motor itself's got some weight to it. I mean, I think the motor and the battery together weigh like 30-some pounds. And they do come with nylon nuts. So once they're tight, they won't come loose. See if I kind of hold this real quick. Oh, and we're breaking our new motor. I want to do that right on this skeg. Haven't head down the water yet, and I'm already breaking you. So it may be a little, you know, a little helpful if you had somebody to help you hold this while you do this, just so you don't do what I just did. You got these little plastic pieces you have to put back in between the holding here. But I was thinking, you know what, I could probably let this go since it does slide up from underneath, which I probably could have done that the first time instead of taking everything apart. That shows you right there that you can slide this motor from the bottom up. So taking all these pieces apart like I just did, didn't have to do that, and that probably would have saved me a little bit of headache there. Once again, you know, there's no instructions, so that's why I'm letting you guys know how to do this. Now, Nucanoe either do a really good full install video or do the directions, so other people who don't see my video not have a problem. I kind of got everything kind of put back together, so now we're just gonna start snugging this up just enough to hold it, and then we're gonna do all our final tightening of everything. And once we have it lined up, once we have the steering control cable on it and all that stuff. So it's a 7/16 wrench. Just gonna do a light snug just to hold everything in place. It does pivot nice. So before we make our final adjustments in the back, I want to get this cable laid out and the foot control mounted where it should be. So you can see, just mount this on the track with your thumb screws. So it looks like all the, you know, the end of these mechanisms here, I think are the same front and back. I don't think they're any different. So I don't think it makes a difference which side you put into what here. So we're gonna get this set up, and basically after you put your thumb screws and mount this track, you gotta thread the threads into this piece, and then you nest this part here into a holder bracket that has a cotter pin in it, which you can see here how it kind of nests in there. And then you just attach it to the back, and you can see where they want it sitting. They want it sitting on, like you nest on this part. So see, there's this little groove here that sits in, and this just squeezes over, and then you have your cotter pin that holds that in place. So you got this thing will spin around, so you can tighten this in place and tighten down the nut to make sure it holds it tight. And there's a little nut on there you want to tighten up when you're done. And then this little groove, you can see how it sits. That little groove right here sits in this groove that they have here. Slide that over and put your cotter pin in it. So here what I found out, this rod here that you screw into this piece here and you screw into the bottom of the foot control is basically almost one continuous piece. So when you tighten this up here, you're actually loosening it from the front steering cable itself. You know, so you're loosening from back here. So you gotta watch, you gotta kind of just split the difference between what you screw in the front and what you screw into the back. That's why they give you these tightening nuts. So you're not going in super far with it to begin with. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna do now is I got this squared up here. Now I'm gonna square up the motor and tighten up all the hardware that compresses on the motor itself to hold it in place. And you can see I have it all the way up to the top, and it kind of gives you, let's look here, an overview of where it's sitting below the kayak. Like I said, the water line's probably about right here. So the blade itself, maybe about 8 inches, underneath the water line. And I think that'll be good. Now, if I need to drop this and go deeper, I will. I'll see how this does on its first water test. If I need to bring it up, I'm going to cut this so I can suck it up higher. But if anything, it's going to have to go a little bit lower. But I think where it's sitting, I think we may be okay. We'll find out. But I got all this hardware tightened up. You can see it's nylon nuts. And we're nice and square now with the mount being, the steering being square and the motor being square to the actual boat. And you can see these little plastic pieces in here prevent you from over squeezing this. And it holds the motor in place. Nice and tight. So that's kind of like self-explanatory, but yeah, I still like to see a company do full instructions for everybody else out there that doesn't grasp everything the same, because we all look at everything differently, So they leave these nuts, these 3 screws here, they leave those loose. So I guess they know that you can slide this motor up through, and then you have to tighten this down when all is said and done. They should say that in the instructions, in my opinion. Just to go through every detail, but that's why I'm doing this video for you guys. But what's nice about this mount itself is that you do not use 1 ounce, 1 piece from the Torqeedo hardware that comes with the motor that you're paying an arm and a leg for. So if you change kayaks, you basically have a brand new set of hardware to mount this motor to a different kayak, which I think is pretty nice. You can see the transition here. It's sitting at a nice, basically a nice trimmed level here. I like it a lot, with this motor setup itself, is that you can see down in here, they come with eye loops already mounted to this kayak. And there's another one underneath here that runs to the seat. And this is the cable, the paracord that actually came with it. And you work it through, let me get around here, you work it through the pulley system here, and here's your cleat to tie it off. So basically this will act as your retract for the motor. Only thing I may do here is that being, oh, it's my black pack's in the way, sorry about that. Being at the last tie off points back here, I'm debating if I throw another eyelet right here before I get to the back here. So it's one thing I may do yet, I'm not sure. So I've been playing around with the paracord a bit, and because of my black pack, and this is probably only when I have the black pack on here, when I go out with my son, I probably won't have this anyway because the seat will be pushed back here. But I am gonna have to run some eyelets, so it kind of goes out and around the black pack, because that other tie down or loop that keeps the paracord and its track that's supplied by Nucanoe, it's running too low and it's lifting up on my tether tube on the black pack. So I needed to, I had some of these laying around. I kind of robbed for right now to get a couple more. Actually, these were out of stock when I tried to order them last time. Hopefully they're back in stock. But I think I'm gonna have to keep them elevated and then drop back down to the final eye loop underneath the seat. And one good thing about this whole thing is that being it's all tracks, yes, I'm gonna have to kind of go back and forth between tandem and solo and move some things around and readjust. But hopefully after the first time on the water solo, the way I have it set up is gonna work okay, and this is how we're gonna leave it. If not, I will update you guys later if it's not gonna work the way I have it set up and have to change it. And we got it looped through the pulley here. And the last thing we need to do is tie the handle on, and they give you a very generous handle. Because that motor is heavy. So we just have to get the right location of where we actually want this handle to be located, because we're going to have to be pulling up from our seat, so we're going to be pulling it back towards us. So I don't want it too long, so it's got to be pretty close to where it is, but we're going to leave the string kind of short or longer for now, just in case I have to modify that on the water. There'll be some, playing around with it as I go through on the water here, but let me get this handle tied on. I mean, it was pretty simple install. It's just me playing around. You're going to have to make some of your own adjustments along the way, that's for sure. And all you got to do for the throttle mount is connect your cable, which has the 90-degree fitting there. You kind of work it underneath here, and then the plate from this has screw, holes in it to line up with the screw holes, and you just put the 2 supplied screws in there, and that's it. It's that simple. So overall, you can see how it's set up here. The throttle, that I'll be adjusting when I'm on the water tomorrow. I may move it down to the slower track just for the simple fact that when I'm paddling, I don't know if that's going to be in the way yet because I have my fish finder here. So it's all going to have to be played out. I'm actually going to go out tomorrow on the water and do some water testing. So that'll be the next video after this. So you can kind of see what kind of speeds I get on this. How it is to retract the motor from the seated position, if there's any changes that need to be made. So just watch that video to see how I have this set up is actually okay or not. But you can see it's a very simple design. It's a hard cable here. You got a foot control here that goes on with thumb screws, and you push this forward. You can see how easy the motor goes back and forth, and it's very little bit of movement in this. So if you press forward, the motor goes to the, it would put your bow of your boat to the right. You push down, you would be going, your bow of your motor would be going left. So to go right, you push forward. To go left, you put your foot down. Right, left. That's how the whole thing works there. And they kind of have an arrow indicator here with this line. It kind of tells you that you're pretty much squared up. It was almost squared up. I mean, the way I have this thing adjusted, it's pretty close, but that kind of gives you that you're running straight. And then that's it. It doesn't take much movement to it. And then the cable just runs along here. And you can see how I have it tucked behind these 2 things here, coming back. My camera mounts there. And that's it. And that's all it is in the back and the plate. So to take this off, obviously you just disconnect your string, and this whole thing pops out with this pin. So obviously disconnect your cable. You got this pin up here on the top. Pull that pin out. Obviously disconnect it from your battery, and that's it. So all this part here stays. This part stays on the motor, and this all stays on your kayak to put it back in place. You got that little ball there. That's kind of like your retract thing. Pop that in. Put it in the right spot. Put your pin in. Connect your tether. And that's it. And you're good to go. Obviously connect your battery and your throttle, you know, your power cable. And that's it. So all these pieces here, probably the tether, everything, I'm probably going to leave right out in the kayak. I'll probably just take this tether here and tie it off to like one of my clips here just so it doesn't go flying off. And that's really it. It's a very, very quick install. It just took me a little bit longer just because of just seeing how it fits on my kayak. Now, obviously, if you don't have all this stuff in the way, it'd be very cut and dry. I'm sure Nucanoe, when they did those pre-done eyelets over there, none of this stuff was in the way, like the black pack and stuff. It was just basically a straight shot back to the motor. Now that I gotta go out and around that stuff, I gotta add my own eyelets. And the best part about this whole thing is that it's very transformable to a tandem setup with a shorter cable. And you know, you got your track mounted pulley system that goes on there with thumb screws. So then I can keep that farther back, but I gotta see. This may be okay leaving this there underneath my sun's seat. I could probably reach underneath it and grab it. I'm not sure yet. And the super best part is that you use no hardware from the Torqeedo kit at all. If you sell this kayak and get another kayak, you know, you have all the parts from Torqeedo to put the mount on another kayak and do your double foot steering, you know, with your cables that run through the hull. But Nucanoe definitely knocked this out of the park with this whole setup they have here to be able to mount everything on the track. Not have to drill holes in your kayak. To me, once again, that's not a huge deal for me, but a lot of people don't like doing that. But it's just very simple install. It's very straightforward. I just think if you are watching this Nucanoe, you definitely need to do maybe a little bit more verbal about, and some pictures about this loose hardware here, that the reason why it's loose is to get the motor in there. This way everybody knows about it. Maybe a few other little tips or a little bit of things that you gotta say. Now this here, I feel like I'm gonna be reaching out to you for a nut and bolt on that. I know the reason why you probably change this to keep it smooth and people don't over tighten that bolt, but I think I'd feel more comfortable than just having a little pin on this coming through and holding my motor down there. I know that a lot of play in this, but I guess as long as I see this pin's all the way down, I guess I'm okay. Maybe it's gonna be fine. It's just me being, you know, not paranoid, but anal about things. I mean, you know, your other motor mount for your Newport does have a, you know, in the diagram, you do show having a long bolt going through that. I hope this video helped you guys to show the install of this to the best of the ability that I could show you. It's really hot, so hopefully I did an okay video for you guys. But you can see how easy all this stuff is. And you know, it's very straightforward, and it makes the mounting of this very easy. And we'll be doing a water test with this. You know, obviously when I go out, I'm going to be fishing. I'm going to be taking most of my gear. I may go out a little lighter and just drop a few poles, but I'll have basically all my gear that's on here, and we'll see how far. You know, I'm going to probably fish maybe 4 or 5 hours with the heat down here right now. So if I can get 4 or 5 hours, but in those 4 or 5 hours, if I run hard, I'm really curious about what I can get out of this. But I'll also show you the speed test. I will verify the GPS tracking speed of the Torqeedo readout with my GPS tracking speed, you know, monitoring of my Garmin. So if that says 3.1 and my Garmin says 3.1, we know that we're good, or one of them are off. That's about it, guys. As always, hope you guys liked this video. I appreciate all of you guys watching. I appreciate all my subscribers and all my supporters. Until next time, be safe on the water, and I'll catch you on the water. Thanks for watching.